All right, we got breaking news. This is the only thing I'm going to say about the election. As you can see, they failed to call Georgia, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina, as well as Nevada. They called Arizona early for Joe Biden, and they were reluctant to call any states for President Trump. They purposely kept Biden in the lead in electoral votes, purposely to make it look like Joe Biden was winning. Joe Biden is not winning. President Trump won back. It must have been 11 p.m. when he won Pennsylvania. I mean, they're still counting, but we're going to get into that in a second. North Carolina, Georgia. He won these three states early on election night. Nevada is a toss up. But let me tell you something is that the slow count is the fraud in the swing states. Because the simple reason, if you're going to commit fraud, you need to know how many votes you need to make up to win. So you can't just pad what they used to do in voter fraud and ballot stuffing is they just add a bunch of ballots for their candidate. But that doesn't ensure a win because you don't know how many votes are going to be cast for your opponent. So what happens is you have to know what the tally is before you start stuffing because you have to know what to beat. So the fraud is here, the delay in counting. And the Democrats set this up by saying, we're not going to know till all the votes are counted. This might take a week. We have to count all the votes. Is because the reason is, and they found this out, and they did this in the last election too, in Ohio, they delayed the release of the count. They delayed the count. So they can figure out how many votes were cast for Trump, and they just delay the count until they can, and you'll see what happened in Wisconsin and Michigan, until they can figure out what the total for Trump is, and that usually takes a day or two. That's why they said, well, we're just going to decide when to start introducing the ballots we're going to need to win. So this is the tactic. So this is the proof of fraud right here. These three states should have been called on election night, I would say about 11:30. Pennsylvania may be longer, but they're all democratically controlled states and they're delaying the count. Florida didn't have a problem, and even Governor Rick DeSantis said that they could have called Florida at 8:30, and instead they waited till 11 o'clock. They waited to call states for Trump, and they went ahead and called states early, including Arizona, for Biden. And now there's going to be recounts in all these states. So I don't know how it's going to pan out, but this is the fraud, is holding up states that went to Trump. And then you get the total Trump total, and so you just introduce your ballots. And if you don't believe me, brother Brandon Tatum said it best.
So this is Wisconsin. So ladies and gentlemen and ladies, look at this. Look at this graph. What in the fudge is this? What in the fudge is this right here? How is it trending like this? All of a sudden, boop, he over Trump. Overnight, they find all these ballots. He's over Trump. Look at Michigan. They trending. They close the ballots. Oh, all of a sudden, we just need just enough to make sure we get to where President Trump is at. This is how many we need to get to win President Trump. They know they're down. They stopped the polling. This is 6 a.m. They stop the polling and they go, boop, we need this much to beat President Trump. Let's find the votes. How do you find this many Biden votes? None of these are Trump. Same thing in Michigan. Good. Oh, how many we need? They in the polls right here. How many we need? Oh, we need this much to get to Trump. Fraud, people. Fraud. This is crazy. If I saw this for Trump, I would be like, what? How do you get a vertical gain here in the graft that just so happened to meet Trump? Vertical gain in the graft just so happened to meet Trump in Michigan and in Wisconsin. I just want to share that with y'all.
All right, there you go. There's Brandon Tatum. He spelled it out better than I could. And then you have introduction of over 100,000 ballots and 100% for Biden. 100%. 100% for Biden. Not one Trump vote. Very suspicious. And the fact that they're holding up these states. I mean, these are obviously going to go to Joe Biden because that's why they're holding up the states, so they can introduce the ballots. The reason it's taking longer is there's Trump campaign people in all these 3 states and in Arizona and in Nevada. So the reasons it's stringing out is because of this. If he has enough support, we're going to discover some fraud here because this is, you saw the graph. It's just, that's all I'm really going to say about the election. I mean, as Brandon said later today, you know, if Biden wins fair and square, I don't friggin' care. That's democracy. What bothers me is all these Democrats railing about Trump is a threat to democracy when they're actually undermining the democratic process and farting around with ballots. I mean, this is obvious. They said how they were going to do it, and I don't think the Trump campaign was prepared. But this is a travesty. This is undermining democracy. As much as I believe in democracy, I obviously believe in the democratic process, but I also believe in a constitutional republic. So, but this is the threat to the democratic process, is trying to skew a vote. And there's so many people that want to get rid of Trump that they're just going to look the other way, you know, even if they're somewhat morally centered. They're going to look the other way because they're like, well, this might be fraud, but we can't have Trump again. So that's all.